34-7, the final score yesterday. As we welcome you in on a Reaction Monday, and man, is there a lot to react to today from that game yesterday. I'm Sean Pendergast. He is Seth Payne. I ask this with much trepidation. How are you doing this morning?
I'm all right. It's hard for me to move beyond some of just the idiocy and get into the deeper level stuff with this team. But there are issues that would prevent this team from certainly winning a Super Bowl. If the Vikings are in the Super Bowl, this is going to be one of those old school Super Bowls where it's not a competition at all. Remember when the Super Bowls were just disgusting, pathetic displays
the whole
of
80s, man.
the great American sport, right?
Yeah.
Kids, there used to be a time when the Super Bowl was the worst game of the year continually.
Never competitive.
Now it's week 3. That Vikings defense did many of the same things to the 49ers the week before, made Brock Purdy look just like he had no answers at times. Like C.J. Stroud yesterday looked like he had no answers at times. So I'm trying to remember that, but there's some consistent themes that keep popping up. I honestly wish the Texans could have played that game without so many idiotic, boneheaded things done by the offensive line that I could move beyond that. And then I really wish the offensive line had taken some measure of accountability for it afterwards. I mean, and yet it's not a surprise to me that these guys are talking about, like, well, you know, they didn't tell us that they were going to call us for lining up too deep in the backfield. Did you watch any football at all this year? Did you watch the very first game of the year? It's a point of emphasis. And offensive linemen have known now for a couple of years since they started emphasizing this that all you got to do is check with the official.
Who is that on?
That's on Laramie Tunsil. That's on Titus Howard.
Okay.
Yeah, like you check with the official. You're like a receiver. You check to be sure you're okay. But then, too, these guys are talking in the postgame about how it's unfair and they're being targeted by the officials. I'm sorry. Does that include the false starts? Is it new this year that you're not allowed to leave before the snap of the football?
Right.
So that on an offensive line that's just disjointed and messy.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got a point where you're using Cade Stover to block Jonathan Grenard, mostly so you can turn your protection back towards the interior offensive line, which is so awful. And they had no answers versus the Vikings defense. And you've got to keep. I mean, they're using 7-man protection, where like only 3 of the guys know how to actually pass block.
Yeah.
You might as well just spread it out and go air raid on them and try to do something that way.
I think to me, the two most frustrating things from a team standpoint, we'll get to individuals here in a second.
Yeah.
Because, boy, is Laramie Tunsil taking some, and rightfully so, from Texan fans everywhere.
Yeah.
But as far as the team thing goes, to me, the two most frustrating things, one, that game after the Bears game on Sunday night, if they play this way against Minnesota, they will get beaten. They will get their skulls thumped.
Yeah.
They played that way against Minnesota, and they got you could have seen this one coming. Don't commit a dozen penalties. You know,
they got one shy. They were only 11 this week.
Oh, is it 11?
One was declined. Laramie Tunsil's illegal formation.
Got declined.
That when they had 4 straight penalties, when they knocked themselves out of field goal position with 4 straight penalties, Laramie was declined at the end there.
Okay, so it was only 11. Yeah. So that's frustrating. Number one is that, hey man, like the warning signs were all there, and you did nothing about it.
Yeah.
You did nothing about it. Number two, this is supposed to be an explosive offense. I was told that the acquisition of Stephon Diggs and the continuity that was kept in the coaching staff, the acquisition, I know Joe Mixon didn't play yesterday, but Diggs in particular, CJ in year 2, and through 3 games, I keep hearing, teams are playing these too high safeties again. You know, teams are playing too high safeties against everybody these days.
Right.
Where is the counterpunch?
Where is the running the football?
Are we just going to sit here and complain about how they're getting covered and how they're getting treated scheme-wise?
If the defense is allowing you, and the Vikings did this less so than in the first 2 games, but if the defense is allowing you to run the ball, basically, then just go ahead and run the ball. But they're lost. They're lost in a lot of ways. This is on Bobby Slowick ultimately, because that offensive line is by far the weak link on this football team right now. I'm trying to think of a position group. Nope, offensive line. And it's the lowest common denominator on this offense actually being any good. It is true. Look, it's one thing to be limited offense, even though you have these 3 wide receivers. But now, after 3 games, in which 2 of them you really haven't done much offensively at all, you got to look at it and say, look, there aren't any excuses. You've got Tank Dell, Stephon Diggs, and Nico Collins out there. And, yes, they spread it around a little bit yesterday. They got some more guys involved. but it was just a complete non-performance.
Yeah, they were down double digits like that.
And even when things, 3 of the first 6 series were upended by offensive penalties, offensive line penalties, and or just,
Laramie Tunsil. They were upended by Laramie Tunsil.
And that's the thing. This has been a consistent theme with Laramie Tunsil through his career, where you're a great pass blocker, but on these critical drives, you kill drives with your false starts. It's as good as giving up a sack. You go from 3rd and 3 to 3rd and 8. You do all these things that negate the good things you do. And then in the run game, there's just no. I just worry that guys I think young guys like Juice Scruggs and Kenyon Green can develop into some good players in the NFL. And yet the example they have set for them is these guys that want to be like diva offensive tackles. It's just the strangest
and
thing.
They've been rewarded for it.
Yeah, they've been heavily rewarded for it.
They think that's the tricky part.
Who are your most swarm like? At any point this season, are Laramie Tunsil or Titus Howard going to be in the circle of swarm?
Oh, God, no.
I highly doubt it.
It's a long season, but they're not even close right now.
And there's a thing, too. It's like sometimes as a defense, you go up against certain offensive lines where, as a defensive player, you're never intimidated by an offensive line, but when you're going into a game where you're like, yep, it's going to be I got to be ready to go. I'm going to be battling today. And as good as Laramie Tunsil is in pass protection, I can't imagine there's a single guy out there who's like, oh, we're in for a bloodbath this week.
Yeah.
We better be ready. Yeah, screw this guy. I'm going to it's finesse. It's a finesse. This is an offensive line that wants to be finesse, and yet they're not good at the finesse either. It's like some rich kid that's taken fencing lessons his whole life, and then all of a sudden he thinks he's going to show up in a bar room, and then he gets hit upside the head with
his little sword.
Yes, with his little foil. Hold on, good sir.
Yeah.
Yes, I have a foil, and then he gets cracked upside the head with a 40. Yeah.
Let's hear from C.J. Stroud. This was C.J., as long as we're talking about the offensive line, here was C.J. Stroud saying we can't be in 3rd and long all the time.
No. Can't live on 3rd and long, especially against a defense like theirs. They cause a lot of issues on 3rd and long. You have to give yourself a chance, and, you keep shooting yourselves in the foot and just moving backwards. You're not playing complimentary football even for yourself. So, I don't know exactly. I can't just tell you right now exactly what the issues are up there. It has to be conversation, away from, the game and just meetings and just seeing what we can do to be better when, it's loud and, how intentional we have to be at practice and things like that, just to get those things fixed. We're moving the ball. It's just, you're kicking yourself out the red zone and kicking opportunities, and it's hard to live on 3rd and plus 10. So,
see, it wasn't CJ's best day. I'll preface what I'm about to say by saying that it was not CJ's best day. That was not CJ Stroud's fault yesterday, I don't think. He could have played better for sure. These were the 3rd downs. Their first 9 3rd downs. You ready for this, Seth? 3rd and 7, 3rd and 10, 3rd and 11, a 3rd and 7 that went to 3rd and 12, thanks to Laramie Tunsil, another 3rd and 12, a 3rd and 4 that went to 3rd and 9, 3rd and 14, and 3rd and 19 because of 3 false start penalties on 3 different players.
Yeah.
A 3rd and 10 that went to 3rd and 15 because of Laramie Tunsil. Mm-hmm. Keep in mind, the 2 that went just 1 5-yard penalty, they got first downs on the actual plays for both of those. Like Xavier Hutchinson had a 16-yard catch, Tank Dell had a 17-yard catch. So it wasn't the 5 yards. It was the 17 that you would have gotten to get the first down. So that was just in the first half. They averaged 3rd and 12. The first 2 3rd downs of the second half, 3rd and 16, 3rd and 11. The best they had was 3rd and 7, and that was on their very first 3rd down. Other than that, it was 3rd and double digits literally every single time.
Yeah. It's and part of it too is when you watch and you see and you wonder, all right, with this defense where the defense, if you guys can envision in your mind just how it looks with the Vikings and a lot of defenses right now, everybody's at the line of scrimmage at the snap. And then immediately all these linebackers will bail out. There's opportunities there, and we saw even on that the second drive, where he hits CJ hit Stephon Diggs, and it was just, but it's those spots as the linebackers are dropping back into their spots. There are openings there, but if you want to try to utilize a bunch of quick guys out on routes, the problem is you've got 2 tight ends in the game. they're both blocking before they leave on routes. The running back has to block before he leaves on a route because the offensive line cannot be trusted to do a damn thing. A damn thing. Whether it's physically blocking one-on-one or picking up the blitz or handling something as simple as, the defensive line shifted right before the snap. They can't be trusted. And it's the one funky gear in the machinery that's screwing everything up right now. And that's on Bobby Slowick. That's on Chris Strausser. And frankly, honestly, when we listened to Laramie Tunsil and Titus Howard both after the game talk about how, apparently they're emphasizing this illegal formation this year.
Laramie Tunsil's exact quote from Aaron Wilson on the illegal formation. You ready?
Yeah.
They tried to make an example out of us. The first 2 weeks, we lined up the same with no problem. Now it's a problem. I feel like somebody told them to make an example. Laramie's got to stop with the victim stuff.
Yeah, no, he's the most penalized offensive lineman in the league.
He's been doing this for 4 years now.
Yeah, the victimhood is not gonna play.
No,
it's like an 8-time felon being like, well, they were looking for it out of me. I just, what am I gonna do?
Yeah.
I just, you murder 8 people and all of a sudden they're on watch for a 9th.
Apparently, that's a point of emphasis with the police.
And it was a point of emphasis from week 1.
Yeah.
And it is as simple.
Just watch football.
All the offensive tackle has to do is check. But that's where it's on Chris Strausser, the offense. Juice Scruggs and his stupid head bob. Yeah, that should have been flagged.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, when they go to silent count and the center lifts his head up, you're not allowed to jerk it back up because it's like simulating it's trying to.
Like you're getting out of your stance. Yeah.
So like on 1, you lift your head up. On 2. And he did the very same thing the next play.
Yeah.
These guys are either not accepting the coaching or they're not even being told or coached about this stuff. It's bad, man. That's on Slowick. That's on Strausser. That's on certainly the veteran leadership.